because the banks went in there and just shoved loans, bonds, just like in Europe. They did to all the governments. They did it to city governments all over the United States, including New York. And that's how they got their pound of flesh. And they don't care if there's an economic crisis. All they want to know is give us our money and let the masses pay the price. So all the services in Jefferson County are being cut. The services in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania are being cut, and probably in 100 other cities that I don't even know about. That's what's happening in Europe. They're trying to make the masses pay. There's been plenty of resistance in Europe. There was a walkout of 2 million workers in England the other day. Portugal has 11 million people in it, and 3 million workers walked out. Yes. That's about the equivalent of 70 million in the United States. Wow. The whole country walked out practically and shut the place down. Now the ruling classes in Europe have learned to live with these general strikes and get past them, see. And the European workers will soon realize that they need a more sustained and higher level of struggle to stop these bankers. Which brings me to the United States. I transition quickly to over here, because while they're trying to settle the euro crisis, and they're struggling to do that, they're being slowly in Europe engulfed by an economic crisis. Production is dropping. Manufacturing is going down in the whole Eurozone. Overproduction, capitalist overproduction is widespread on the globe. The Chinese manufacturing, the big engine of the Asian economy, has had its first real contraction in manufacturing. That has a lot to do with Europe and US workers. They won't be able to sell to China. The Chinese workers won't be able to buy as much. It will affect factories everywhere. So this economic crisis is going to circle around and come to the United States. It's coming slowly and so forth, on top of the crisis that we're living through right now. And if there ever was a more timely development under these conditions, it's the Occupy Wall Street movement, which has put an end to 40 years of retreat, has said enough is enough, we won't take it anymore, and we're going to make a stand. And we're going to do it publicly, and we're going to put our bodies on the line to do it against the rich who are just taking every drop of blood from the people. And this is a very important moment in the development of the struggle in the United States, which our party thoroughly and profoundly supports, appreciates, and wants to find every way we can to enhance that struggle. Now, I want to just say something about the struggle of the Occupy Wall Street. And in particular, I want to address the question of occupation. Because you have to ask yourself, why is the capitalist class, which is this almighty Pentagon, which has bases in like 800 bases around the world, tons of military equipment, the FBI, the CIA, police forces that are militarized all over the cities of the United States, why are they so absolutely determined to snuff out every occupation they can do. We have to ask ourselves, why is that? It's not only the struggle, the content of what Occupy Wall Street has raised, the 1% and the 99%. The content is very important. But the form of the struggle that they chose to open up with is extremely significant to the bourgeoisie, even if sections of the movement don't understand it yet. In that regard, I want to read to you some stuff that Vladimir Lenin wrote. He's the founder of the Russian Revolution, the architect of the first successful socialist revolution in the United States, in the country, in the world, rather. I wish it was the United States. And he wrote a pamphlet after the revolution. It was a polemic against a man named Karl Kautsky, who attacked the Soviet Union viciously, who had supported World War I, the imperialist war, and who had been a great socialist theoretician, but went over to the imperialist ruling class when the real crisis came in 1914 and the war broke out. So Lenin wrote an answer to him and his attacks on the socialist revolution. And the answer helps to understand the Occupy Wall Street movement, in my opinion. And I beg your indulgence, I'm going to read a little bit. I don't usually do this, but I think it's worthwhile right now. He quotes Engels. He says, bourgeois democracy, although a great historical advance in comparison with medievalism, always remains under capitalism and is bound to remain restricted, truncated, false, and hypocritical, a paradise for the rich and a snare and deception for the exploited and for the poor. This truth forms one of the most essential parts of Marx's teachings. And then he quotes Engels, the modern representative state is an instrument of exploitation of wage labor by capital. In reality, however, the state is nothing but a machine for the oppression of one class by another, and indeed, in the democratic republic, no less than in the monarchy. This is what Engels is saying. Then I skip. Lenin says, take the fundamental laws of modern states. Take their administration. Take the freedom of assembly, the freedom of press, or the so-called equality of all citizens before the law, and you will see at every turn evidence of the hypocrisy of bourgeois democracy, which every honest, class-conscious worker is familiar with. There's not a single state, no matter how democratic, which has no loopholes or reservations in its constitution, guaranteeing the bourgeoisie the possibility of dispatching troops against the workers, of proclaiming martial law, and so forth, in case of the violation of public order. That's what they're accusing the occupation of Wall Street. They're violating public order. That's really what they're saying. And he goes on to say, and actually, in any case where the exploited violates its position of slavery and tries to behave in a non-slavish manner. And then he refers to Switzerland and the United States and how they deal with strikers. At the time, strikes were crushed in the United States by the military. Take the bourgeois parliament, I'm quoting again. Kautsky has never heard